Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Hey guys, this is Grant from the Brutally Delicious Podcast. I've been trying to find a gap in all of the bird noises that are happening outside at my house in order to record this, and I've given up trying. So if you hear magpies screaming or seagulls or anything like that, I apologise. It's not been put there to fuck with you. But the craziness that a few days of sunshine causes in the UK does set an apt fitting for a look at an up-and-coming release I've been sent that captures a very rare energy, and that, my friends, is a Butthole Surfers concert. Now, the band have been on hiatus for close to a decade now, and we've been waiting for new material for almost a quarter of a century. But despite all of this, the legacy of this band remains one of the fiercest in all of music. Trying to describe what they do, that artistic insanity, it's like trying to decipher primordial chaos itself. They've got to be experienced. Now, the concept of controversy and flamboyant visual artistry has been a part of rock music for as long as it's existed, be it the Beatles being bigger than Jesus, you know, the stage performances of the likes of Frank Zappa and Pink Floyd, or like the out-and-out fear that you get from artists like Alice Cooper and Marilyn Manson. Rock as a broad genre has never shied from pushing boundaries, but Butthole Surfers went so far past the boundaries that it was the smouldering remains were just a plume of smoke in the distance. Smoke bombs, flaming cymbals, riots, bald strippers, surgery videos, eating Fred Astaire's asshole and shitting in your mum's vagina. To have this much associated with one band creates a formidable legacy of extremity. They're a band that have divided opinion. Is this the epitome of avant-garde performance art, or nothing more than an immature attempt to shock? One thing could always be certain: raw, visceral energy was always on the cards. The band have been championed by artistic greats like Alex Winter, Baz Luhrmann, John Carpenter. I mean, these are three guys that you can definitely say know the importance of a great soundtrack. And they've been cited as influences for pretty much everybody involved in the Seattle grunge scene. Christ, I could keep going all day with this stuff, but you get the point, yeah? So this new release, obviously it's an old recording, is shrouded in mystique, live at the Leather Fly. It's a hark back to one of Gibby's like fever dream fantasies that he described about having a nightclub that featured a giant leather-clad fly hanging over its doorway. If anybody's seen Happy on Netflix, that's the image that this gives to me. You know, the insect BDSM club with horny mosquitoes screaming "choke me daddy" in unison. That's the reason that I get given stuff like this. I've got an imagination, I do like the artsy stuff, and I do like unpredictability, which is definitely what Butthole Surfers represent. So let's get on to the release. And there's one word that springs to mind the minute you start listening to it, and that is bootleg. But the concept of intentionally bootleg sound is not a new one, especially for these guys. They were fond of taking portable DATs on tour to capture as much live material as possible. This is clearly one of those recordings. You know, the mid-2000s, 2007, I think Double Live was released. It's rough and it's raw to the point where it actually makes it difficult to listen to, but that's exactly what I want from a band like this. You know, if they'd taken this recording and trying to give it anything more than just a little bit of spit and polish, I would have been bitterly disappointed. Nobody wants to hear the Butthole Surfers produce like modern metalcore. You know, I want it to sound like somebody's playing it from one of those Talk Boy things from Home Alone. You know, this band marketed themselves as being an absolute visual and auditory hellscape. I want it to sound like the audio equivalent of having Jackson Pollock in one ear and Salvador Dali in the other. Now, what Butthole Surfers did put out that was big, so to speak, is not included in this. The two notable ones being Pepper and Lord as a Monkey, the latter of which was actually my own introduction into Butthole Surfers in the mid-90s via Beavis and Butthead. You know, those songs provided a level of mainstream appeal for this band during the mid-90s. What we've got here is the infamous Butthole Surfers from the late 80s and the early 90s. It's the band of legend and infamy. If I was going to hazard a guess at when this gig was recorded, I would say probably about 1990, maybe 1991, but I don't think anybody knows for sure, not even the band. Now, sometimes I go into track listings, sometimes I don't. With this, I'm not, because this is a live recording. It's supposed to be experienced as if you're there. And I said before, this is like premium fizzy bootleg material. So I'm not going to try and patronize listeners by trying to break down the kind of audio savagery that's going on in this recording. This is like Captain Beefheart during a psychotic episode. You know, like I say, it's not to be listened to. This is to be experienced. So I'll just summarize, because this release is not here for discovery of new listeners. I don't think it's for reminiscing. It's for taking you back to fearing for your life in a mosh pit that turns into a bloodbath right in front of your very eyes. It's to take you back to those days of youth where you don't have a fucking clue what is going on. It's a labour of love for the band, and I guess to close this out, it got me thinking of an interview I've done with Brutally Delicious about a year ago with a death metal singer, and I'd asked him about shock and fear in rock music now that everybody else, you know, everybody in the audience has a camera with them, you know, they're filming it and what have you, and it's, you know, can you get away with the kind of fear of the unknown that you could in rock music in the 70s and 80s. And I would love to see what Butthole Surfers would be like now. You know, it's with everybody filming it and all of the infamy and all of the stories and all of the fear that they represented. 2025 Butthole Surfers would be potentially a thing of beauty. And I'd like to see it. This is Grant for the Brutally Delicious podcast, signing off.